begins to fade now, and I feel like I'm losing time, but I don't know how I'm here. The sunlight has turned to grey, I feel like I'm losing love again. I don't know how I'm here. I could feel your heartbeat, I could feel somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat, I could feel somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe. And it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna need.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Simracersworld TV, or good afternoon, I should say. I'm still not getting used to this sort of time of day to be broadcasting. Welcome to the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Series, rounds 1 and 2 from Donington Park, and we have a absolutely beautiful and brilliant afternoon ahead of us of racing. I'm Chaz Draycott, and in the booth with me today we have Jack Werrell and Peter MacKay joining us to be a third commentator in this one, to give us a lot of technical info and insight into this one, while Jack and I just try and wing everything else. Jack, just coming to you, mate. New series for us on Simracersworld TV, and a car that we've seen in a couple of other series that we've broadcasted before, but never in a one-make series. This should be a dip into the unknown, but something quite exciting for us.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really looking forward to it. I've seen these cars in real life, and I've seen them on iRacing, and they're just a formula for amazing racing. They're tricky to get a handle on, but when you drive them right, they're so rewarding. So I'm expecting some proper close door-to-door action, and we've got, an 8-week calendar, and we've got 2 races today as well, so it's going to be a lot of action to get through.
Yeah, definitely will be. Peter, just coming to you as well, mate. Good to have you on board for this one. A lot of, you've got a lot more background knowledge on this than Jack and I, but it'll add a bit more spice into the mix with the info that we can bring people. What are you expecting to see today? Because you actually witnessed the practice races for this as well, didn't you?
I actually did, and this is the joy of iRacing. I was actually able to join them myself and race wheel to wheel with the guys, which is the ultimate type of research, I guess, for commentary. I think we're going to see a fantastic, not just 2 races today, but a fantastic championship, because we've got a great format, 2 20-minute races today, and the second race will be a reverse grid. So the results from race 1 will be completely flipped on their head. So that's going to show really who's the most complete driver over the season. And we've got to watch out for MacKay, for Austin Greatrex, Matthew Donington, and maybe a few more as well. So it's going to be just a fascinating series to watch over the next 8 weeks.
It really will be, and well, we can hear the cars, but we can't quite see them yet. But here we go then. We'll have a look at some of the guys out on track at the moment. This is Matthew Dorrington, and he is in probably what is one of Jack's favourite liveries. We always do the sort of, I like this livery, I like that livery, before we get a broadcast underway, and we have been gawping at the Fury Simsport livery, I believe it is. Some experienced guys out here actually, and Peter, you've been telling us beforehand as well, the drivers like MacKay as well, that they race in real life. We actually have some pretty good names in this one, don't we, to sort of show the boys how it's done.
We certainly do. I mean, MacKay comes from a racing family. They race with a team called SW Engineering, and their family business, a company called Suzante, is a kind of optics and camera equipment company. You'll see that embroidered on the side of their car. So Matt's father Peter races in the Carrera Cup GB and has actually gone over to Le Mans and won one of the Carrera Cup races over there as well. And Matt is currently getting his racing career started in the Boxster Championship with the Porsche Club of Great Britain. He's also coached by Ben Barker, who races for Gulf Porsche in the WEC. So that coaching is obviously paying off, because he's top of the timesheets right now with a very quick time straight out of the gate.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's done a cracking job. We will show you the times on the left-hand side, everybody, just so you can see how close they are. But only a couple of tenths between the first 2 guys there, and then third place, well, half a second down. But Jack just trying to string a lap together around here, especially on the GP loop, in a car that's as wild as the Porsche Cup car. It's not an easy feat for these guys, is it?
No, I can imagine it's quite difficult. Obviously, we can see Kyle Henney's the only driver so far to drop into the 1:28 sort of margin. So it's going to be difficult because there is quite a lot of runoff, but there are also parts in the circuit where, like we're looking now, going down into the old GP hairpin, it's downhill, so you've got to brake nice and early. You outbrake yourself, and you don't get it slowed down. You're going onto the grass, and that's even slippier than going downhill with a locked brake. So we're going to say it a lot. It's a rewarding circuit and a rewarding car, and it should produce some amazing racing. But if you get one bit wrong, it really will lose you plenty of time and possibly even positions at the start of the race. So you've got to be careful, and you've got to make sure you pretty much nail every lap. You've got to be on it for the entire race, just to string the laps together and keep it clean and consistent. And I think that's what it'll come back to, just keeping it consistent. Because these cars, yeah, like you've mentioned, they are quite a beast to get under control. So keep it clean, keep it consistent. You should just about get away with the race.
I reckon so, but it's easier said than done. It's easy for us boys to sit up here and say, oh, just keep it clean, it's fine. It certainly is a bit more of a boxing match inside the car. We've got Ian Hannon, who's just coming around the final corner here. We'll just jump on board for a second. Rip headphone users, because these things on board, just listen to that, the flat six scream of the Porsche. We all know and love it. It may not be your favourite car in the world, everyone, but I tell you what, Porsches are just always there. They're always in motorsport, and they're just iconic bits of kit. So out of Redgate we go then, down the hill, the very scary crane of curves. You go round to the right, try not to take too much of the curve. Over to the left, you turn in just before it dips down, so you make sure that you get the car settled and ready to go in. Careful on the brakes into the old hairpin, because you can easily go straight on or over-rotate it. The bridge isn't there anymore, but still, the wonderful world of sim racing means that we can drive underneath it. The iconic bridge at Brands Hatch up towards McLean's. Again, try and take a late apex here, get it settled on the brakes. Back up over the top of the hill now. We've got a blind apex on the right hander here, so these guys have to be careful not to cut that and get a slowdown penalty, because you've got a really long run down. You want to try and get on the power as soon as you can there. Ian Hannon just struggling a little bit with that there. Over the crest of the hill where the Dunlop Bridge used to be, and now into the chicane. Obviously we're going left now onto the GP loop rather than going right left on the national loop. Car in front there just running a little bit wide in front. I think that was John Westbrook in the number 66. But Ian has dealt with that fine. Down into the hairpin. Now this is downhill as you're turning in here, so on the brakes the car does want to break away from you a little bit, ironically, pardon the pun. Back on the power up the hill. Makes the car feel really slow when you get out of there as well. Try not to light up the rears. Over the crest again, another blind apex, and when you're going into a corner that's downhill and a hairpin, you don't want to do that. And Ian, as you can see there, turns in a little bit early, gets it sorted and across the line. But it's a very technical lap here, isn't it, Peter? There's so much for the guys to think about with all the elevation changes in this car.
It really is. This is a very particular car to learn, and it's not the easiest circuit to get used to it. So this is going to be a real challenge straight away for our drivers. But they've been spending a lot of time on track, having a couple of practice races. I've seen the guys having practice sessions during the week, so they're all putting the time in. But yes, this 911 GT3 is a really, really tricky car to get right. Of course, has the traditional and unique rear-engined layout, which makes the car quite unique in its characteristic. No anti-lock brake system as well, so that is, like you say, coming down into the old hairpin, very easy to lock up the brakes and run wide. So this is the sort of circuit where the guys that have put in the most time behind the wheel during the week are the guys that are really going to reap the benefits, because it's not a car nor a circuit where you can just jump in and go quickly straight away.
Yeah, you're certainly right there, mate. It's not the most straightforward of tracks. I'm just going to make sure I've got something right behind the scenes here, guys. We're just looking at Gary Duckman, who's just had a little bit of a moment there, but fortunately he is back on with it. And I tell you what, though, I mean, Jack, in terms of the format, the reverse grid being the second race of the day, do you think that we're going to see some of these guys maybe try and exploit that, or is it going to be just a case of go for it, try and get the points out of race one, because you don't want to risk it for the sake of a reverse grid pole?
I'm not really sure, because obviously I'm not out there on circuit. I'm sure the drivers will have differing sort of strategies, but it's really sort of where you get placed at the time, because it is a full reverse grid. There's no chance where it could be sort of the top 10 or the top 12 or anything like that. This is a full reverse grid. That's fixed. It can't change. So whether you decide just to sit at the back, keep the first race clean and sort of enjoy it, and then go for it in the second race, or you might just get caught up in the midfield, maybe even work your way to the front in the first race, but then have to work your way back through the entire field in race two. So it's going to produce some really, really close racing, but it's obviously going to put a lot of pressure on the guys that are the front runners already. Because if you're at the front of race 1, you've got a lot of work to do to get to a similar sort of position in race 2. And yes, the drivers in front may not necessarily be slower, because they could have been involved in an unfortunate incident in race 1, but that means that you're never going to know who you're coming up against. You could be against someone who you're a bit quicker or you're a bit slower than them. So I've said it already, and I'm going to say it again, it's a formula for amazing racing.
It really is. You're not wrong, mate. And we have 26 cars in the field as well today. As you'll have seen, Matthew Dorrington has gone fastest, a 1:28.878. Him and Kyle Henney in a bit of a class of their own at the moment, because third place Ryan Parkins is 8/10 off these top guys. You've got 5 thousandths of a second between Gavin Halls and Dan Bathy just behind him then. We've got Austin Greatorex in 6th position in the typical Porsche factory colours, which, to be honest, I mean, I've never been a massive fan of the livery personally, but it does suit the car, doesn't it, Peter?
It really does, yeah. Of course, that's the exact same livery that the Porsche factory use or have used in the past at Le Mans and in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship as well. So it's certainly been a successful livery, mainly used on the previous 911 RSR, the normally aspirated, but of course it's now moved to a turbocharged unit with a livery more similar to the car actually, funnily enough, just in front of Austin here on screen. Just to mention about the reverse grid, you made a good point there about the strategy of how to approach it. I think what we're going to see here is that we've got kind of two types of driver that we've got in this series. We've got some very, very fast real world racers and sim racers. So somebody like Matthew Dorrington has his own simulation equipment company called Midas Simulations. That's him on screen right now. So obviously very, very quick. And there's also guys who are quite new to sim racing and members of the Porsche Club. What I've found with my experience of working with these guys over the last month or so, while they've built up the community, is very much that it is a community. It's still a kind of club atmosphere. So you have some very fast drivers and you have some beginners. So there's a big gulf in terms of the driver's ability behind the wheel, but it's been very inclusive, and there's certainly been no egos, which has been brilliant to see. And I think that's what makes for good club motorsport, which is what we're seeing here. As we see Matthew Dorrington get turfed off. That was commentator's curse if I've ever heard it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think I don't think we're going to see any funny business in terms of the reverse grid, because I think the fast guys are so fast that I think they'll actually relish the challenge of cutting through the field.
Oh, Mark Searle, sorry, he's just turned in there. I think, which one of them was that? I think, was that Mr. Parkins? No, Parkins is in the pits. Ian Hannon has gone off as well. We thought there might be a little bit of carnage here and there. There's some of them just giving each other a bit of a nudge here and there. Carl Hazelton's gone off the circuit. We've got another pair of guys off here. Angus Archer's, well, he's on the anchors at the moment. Here is one of the other Gulf coloured Porsches that we saw before, actually. It's got quite a nice satin metal finish to it, with the orange in the middle in some sort of matte finish, and it looks really, really tasty. I did notice this car as well, Mark Bauer, before. It doesn't seem like there's any numbers up the side of it, and it's in a satin matte grey. It's almost like it's been covered in dust in a warehouse for ages, and he just thought, all right, get the covers off it, boys, let's take it out and let's go racing. But he's not doing too badly. He's done a 1:30.7 there and improved on his personal best. He's in 14th position at the moment. And to be fair, we've got a lot of guys out on track. I'll show you the track map on the right-hand side of your screen there. The colours are pretty much respective of what car colour they have chosen in iRacing as their standard liveries. But it's quite a packed circuit at the moment, and it always will be at Donington Park, won't it, Jack? I mean, it's not the longest track in the world, with just about a minute and a half here on the Grand Prix circuit. I know that the GP loop is quite a lot longer in terms of lap time than the national circuit, but I reckon we'll see some guys here having to negotiate lap cars over the course of a race.
Yeah, well, I think that is a possibility. It is a 4-kilometre rotation of the whole circuit with the GP loop added, which sounds like quite a long way, but these Porsches just they fly around it in under 1 minute or 1.5 minutes, which is crazy. You see Mark Bauer using all the curves and a little bit extra. I think he even got all 4 wheels off the ground there. So you've got to look for every little advantage you can, and if, like we can see, we've got Mark trying to negotiate a slower car ahead, that's what you're going to have to keep in account as well. Because if you're a quicker driver, or you've just got to pass maybe an incident ahead, you've got to make sure you place the car where you need to, because if you place it on the outside of an off-camber corner, it's really going to hurt you. So maybe just that extra little bit of patience in these cars will really make a difference throughout the races.
Yeah, it's something they have to be very careful of as it goes along. And we've got Mark Phillips there just coming out of the pit lane. He's in a very, very pretty livery. Mark has been helping us behind the scenes in terms of getting all this sorted for the guys at Porsche Club GB. We also have to give a thanks to Carl Sharkey as well, who's been involved. He's been another one that's been helping us out. And obviously, you know, Peter's been doing a great job as well, jumping on board so he can give us more and more info as this goes on, which is great. So the more the merrier in this situation, and we've got a good team together for it, and I think we're going to see some fantastic racing, as the guys have said as well. I do have to just apologise to some of the guys there that are watching, because the volume of the car on board is absolutely ear-destroying, but outside it's not too loud, so just to not risk it, I've turned it down a bit. You can see Kyle Henney here just having to wait there. That's the 111 machine in front of him there. I believe that is Andrew Marston. He's at the bottom of the timesheets at the moment, 26th place, doing a 1 minute 42.5 as his best, but he's just getting out of people's way at the moment, just getting the car around, doing the laps, and that's all you can do in this scenario, isn't it really, Peter? I mean, if you've not driven the car that much before, if you've not got much experience with iRacing, you've just got to get laps under your belt just to get used to how it feels.
Yeah, Andrew's a newcomer to the Porsche Club of Great Britain, just a paddock, if you like, but the thing I like about Andrew is he's approached it in the right way, and you know, so many of the more experienced guys in the club have been very active in helping him out with instruction, and not only for equipment but also driving style as well. And I'm sure we'll see him really pick up the pace throughout the championship. So that's something that's an extra element to this championship, is you're going to see some very high quality racing at the front, but you're also going to see some guys who are really going to improve over the course of the season. So this is on looking on camera here, Dan Beatty in the 23 car. He's got an almost Earl Bamber Motorsport like livery, very cool. That's right up there for livery of the day for me. That's a very, very nice looking car.
Yeah, it certainly is, especially with the matte effect on it as well. It really helps it. It just finishes off a livery, doesn't it, really? It's just, I don't know what it is about matte effects, but when people get these spec maps right on these cars, and you have, say, like one that's matte and then it's got a big chunk of, say, chrome down the side of it where there's a nice bit of colour on it, it just really does finish them out nicely. So he's doing a good job there at the moment. They're in 5th position. Oh, we've got a car off. Oh, we'll say that. There you go. There's Commentator's Curse for you if you ever wanted to see it in action, ladies and gentlemen. I do have to warn you as well, actually, Peter. You might not have witnessed my style of Commentator's Curse yet, but Jack will vouch for this. Rather than just say somebody's doing well and then they'll go off, what I tend to do with my Commentator's Curse is I'll watch someone for a bit, maybe even a lap, say, oh, they're doing all right, they're having a good battle, getting the job done. We'll look away and look at another battle. As soon as we've moved away, it'll have gone to absolute pot in the background for whoever we were looking at before. So you'll soon see that that is my type of curse. So I think anyone that's a fan of any of the drivers that are out there tonight, we've got SW Engineering saying, afternoon everyone, supporting our driver MacKay Henney, thanks for Simracersworld TV for streaming. Not a problem at all. But if I know that if they were watching and thinking, oh no, he's looking at our driver now, as soon as he looks away, that's it, he's going to be off and in the trees. So we'll have to try and avoid doing that too much. Here's Ryan Parkins, 3rd place. He's one of the last minute additions to this. And to be honest, Jack, he's got straight on with it and a little bit under the radar, but 3rd at the moment, not a bad job.
No, he's doing a great job. Like you said, he's a late entry. So whether that was just that extra like final bit of practice, and he's gone, oh wait, I've been practicing so much I've forgotten to register, or it was just something that popped up very last minute. But he's doing a great job. We said he's P3, but we've got to remember the gap from P1 to P3 is 8 tenths. So a massive deficit, and the car ahead, Kyle Henney, he's only 800ths away from the provisional pole sitter at the moment, Donington. So it's spread out, but not to the same degree as I was expecting. I was expecting sort of an even spread from sort of P1 to P10, but you've got 2 drivers separated by 8 tenths, and well, I say that, and now 3 drivers separated by 7 tenths because Parkinson just posted a 1 minute 29.600, so he's still improving in these closing stages of the practice session.
And that's it, you know, this isn't even the vital time now, going into qualifying, not the longest of sessions. When you're trying to get sort of track position out there on this one, Peter, it's a case of, do you just go out straight away and just see what's presented to you, or do you think it's going to be a case of waiting around a little bit till everyone's gone out for these guys?
Well, that is the dilemma that you got to face. I mean, personally, I think it's always good to just be ready to go and get out on track as quick as you can, and just take the spot as quick as you can. You see a couple of years ago in the MotoGP world, in the motorcycling world, Jorge Lorenzo was always good at that. I'm not mucking about. He would be out right there at pit lane waiting for the green light to go on and straight out on track. I personally think that's a good way to do it. Of course, we're running a fixed setup today, provided by driver61.com and Scott Mansell. So thank you to Scott for that. But what the fixed setup means is that everyone starts the session with the same fuel. So the longer you're out on track, of course, the more of that you burn off. And the more fuel you burn off, the less weight you have in the car, which of course makes it go faster. So there's that to consider as well. So if it was me, I would get straight out on the track and get on with it.
I like that you've said that, because I'm quite the opposite. I'm too scared of traffic, so I just tend to linger around in the pit lane, twiddling my thumbs and thinking, I like how they've modelled these knobs on the dashboard. It looks really, really nice. And then I'll think, oh yeah, there's a qualifying session going on, and out we go. But, that just goes to show that there are different approaches to it, which is good. And there's pros and cons to each of them, of course. Sometimes if you do wait around and then you cane it round on your outlap, you'll soon come across traffic that's slowing down because they want to leave room to the car in front. And it can go both ways, so we'll see what they get up to. I quite like this livery here, Jack. Carl Sharkey, he's again one of the guys that's been helping us out in getting all this sorted out, and it's quite a bold livery. But I tell you what, as a base colour, because all these Porsches in real life as well, they get delivered in white. It certainly does look good like that, doesn't it?
It does. I've noticed a lot of the cars have got the prominent colour of white throughout it, because it just looks so good. It makes the car look that much cleaner. And that much nicer. On my screen, the car behind is Greater X, and he has got a different livery to what is being shown on stream at the moment. He's in a Quantum Racing livery. Whether that shows up on stream yet, I'm not 100% sure. It could just be that I've got a past of racing with him and not even noticed. But yeah, I've got to say that Carl Sharkey's livery is, it's definitely up there, as well as the Fury Sim Sport cars. I see them so much throughout various championships and series, and they never fail to sort of get to the top of my list, like whether it's on a Mazda, whether it's on maybe like a GTE or one of these GT3s. They just pull the livery off so well.
Carl's turned in there on Greatorex, unfortunately, has to be said. But it was good to see a little bit of racing in practice. You know, some of these guys proper going for it, getting a bit door to door. It's not what you always see in these sessions. A little bit further down the order, at the moment in 21st, is the car that was just in front of them there. That's Amrik Sakdev in the number 2 machine. And we've got Greatorex going a little bit Paris-Dakar on us there. Running a bit wide and fancying a bit of the grass. This is Stuart Clark in 16th, with his name across the rear wing, just in case we forget. We're not going to miss him in a hurry. And again, it's quite a 90s livery, isn't it? That, you know, primary colours. It looks like something from an old airline, doesn't it?
I'd say that one looks like the old Penske Can-Am cars.
Oh yes, it does.
Porsche 917. Yeah, I think that's very cool. That's obviously a Porsche livery, or Porsche and Audi. I remember they used to put on the front of those cars. So that's very nice of Stuart to put his name in such enormous letters on his car. So we'll never get him wrong. I wish more drivers would do that. Put their name in enormous capital letters on the car, so we don't get it wrong.
Well, don't forget as well, in the real world series, in most Porsche series like this, especially in the Carrera Cup GB, the drivers do have their names on the windscreens. But I mean, when you're watching the broadcast, it is hard to tell anyway. I'm hoping that iRacing do actually model that at some point in future. I did ask about it about 2 years ago in the suggestion forums, but apparently it works very differently in terms of how many characters they can allow and so on compared to the numbers, which is understandable. It's not an easy thing to map, because you put in a number that's a solid surface over something that's completely transparent, or pretty much completely transparent. So they do well enough as it is. I shouldn't be giving them more things to do. Here is, though, hands down my favourite livery on the grid. Kids and grown-ups love it so, and, well, it's Haribo. What more do you want? Do you reckon that's a shout for yours as well, Jack? What do you think, mate? You're younger than I am.
I'm not sure. It's got that sort of comedy-esque sort of style about it, but I can understand the sort of serious side of it. Haribo have just sponsored a Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. It's not something you see every day. You tend to see, obviously, you've got your Gulf colours, and I know on iRacing Oreo cars are quite popular as well. And Haribo, I think I can confidently say I've never seen a car sponsored by Haribo in all my time on iRacing. So I can't decide. I'm sort of sat on the fence at the moment. I don't dislike it, but I don't love it. I do like it as a livery, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's up there with the heights of my personal preference on the Fury Sim Sport cars.
Well, to me, it's like almost like the Red Bull thing. You know, there's that very prominent yellow and red down the side with the animal that's up the side of it. I suppose you're being used as an emblem. You never know. There's a million and one things that could be going through my head, but all I know now is that I'm hungry. In front of him there, that's Carl Hazelton in the number 24. And again, white livery looking good on this car. Really looks like it just... I can't quite put my finger on it, but it shows all the beautiful curvature and all the panel lines and the intakes and everything just works so well on it. It's very, very tasty. And we've got Hassa, our co-commentator, commenting on the YouTube stream as well, so it makes me want to run to the shop for a bag of Haribo, which, yeah, to be fair, if I didn't have two broadcasts this afternoon, I'd do the same. So, just coming to the end of practice now. It's a bit of a different kettle of fish when you go into qualifying, isn't it, Peter? These guys have really got to knuckle down now and make that one lap count when they've got such a short session ahead of them, haven't they?
Yes, they really do. And of course, these Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars, they do take quite a few. I noticed quite a few laps to get up to temperature. And of course, it's not the longest lap here at Donington. So really, the car is not really at its optimum until the very end of qualifying. So you really are under the car's only really at its best at the very final stages of qualifying. So that's going to be a challenge for the drivers, because getting the brakes and the tires up to temperature, then these 911 GT3 Cup cars, they really come alive. So that is going to be such a challenge for our drivers as we head into this 25-minute qualifying session. And of course, we've got a group qualifying session here, which in iRacing, more often than not, you'll have the cars out on track on their own, and you go out and do your 2 or 3 laps, and that's it. But a group qualifying session really does add an extra element, because if you can tuck in behind a driver who's slightly faster than you, that can be to your advantage on 2 points. One, you can obviously follow their lines and see where they're braking, where they're putting on the throttle, and you can learn an awful lot from a faster driver. But also, you can also get a little bit of what's called the aerodynamic toe. So basically, the car in front is punching a big 911-shaped hole in the air for you and reducing the air resistance on your car and therefore increasing the speed. Now, that effect is only minimal here at Donington Park and with this car, but still an effect nonetheless. So if you can get tucked behind the right driver, it can perhaps sometimes help your lap time. But the driver in front has to be a little bit quicker than you for it to work. Yeah,
definitely. And often some of these drivers as well will find that they can be quicker when they're chasing as well. I mean, I know that it's something that I suffer from in iRacing. If I'm in front and I've got clear air in front of me, I'll be as inconsistent as anything. It's unbelievable. But if I'm behind someone, I'll suddenly gain all this confidence to know where they're braking and know that I can go a little bit later, get on the throttle a little bit earlier than them, and put the pressure on. So whether some of these guys use that sort of tactic in qualifying is yet to be seen, but we're going to go aboard now. This is Gianluca Ilia in the number 688 car, going down into turn 1 then. We'll bring the dashboard up in the bottom right for you, although it might overlap with the qualifying mode screen that we've got at the bottom. So you'll see the sector times at the bottom. Gianluca makes a little bit of a mess of turn 1 there, running a bit deep, putting a bit of lock on and kills the momentum, but down the crane of curves we go. Great bit of track. It's so exciting, especially in a car like this that's not got all the downforce in the world. You know it might not always stick down there, so you've got to be very, very careful. You can see the revs building up on the LCD dash of the Porsche, sorry, the LED dash. It's got a beautiful dashboard on this car. It is great to drive in iRacing. They have modelled it so well. But I know you're just a fan of the noise, aren't you, Jack? You love it.
Oh, I think the noise of any Porsche really it's music to my ears. They're sort of renowned for that specific Porsche noise. It's very sort of BMW-esque as well. Like you hear a BMW, you know what noise, you know what car it is. Same with these Porsches. The RSR, you know what that is from 3.5 miles down the road, because those things scream. Not quite as much as these, but they just have got that noise, which it just sounds like race car.
Yeah, definitely, and that's it. You don't want a quiet, whirring race car. I mean, nothing on Formula E, of course. They do have exciting racing, but just to have the noise adds to the spectacle. We've got John Westbrook off the track. He's got Liverpool livery on that car, so it looks like his qualifying lap has gone about the same way as their season has at the moment, in terms of lockdown really curtailing it, unfortunately. Not that I'm sour about that at all, and not that I'm not a Liverpool fan, but yeah, hopefully he can improve there. Matthew Dorrington goes fastest then at the moment, 1:29.4. Parkins is just under a tenth of a second behind in second place. And the traffic, you know, we were saying this before, Peter, there is quite a spread in talent in terms of the actual drivers that we've got here. Some of the slower drivers, in no disrespectful way to them, could probably get in the way over the course of this session and mix up the grid a bit, couldn't they?
They could, you're absolutely right. And I think what you'll notice is there's also a variety of approaches into the slower cars dealing with the faster cars coming by. In some cases, I'm not going to name names, but in some cases, there's drivers who are really, really good at watching the mirrors and make it, and if there's a faster car coming, not getting in the way. However, there are some other drivers who perhaps have the bad habit of sort of blocking a little bit and kind of sort of running their own line and potentially causing incidents, and that will apply during the race as well. We're just looking on screen at the number 55 of Gavin Halls, who was finished second in their warm-up race last Sunday here at Donington Park, right behind Austin Greatorex. And I have to say, I like that livery, the Harrods green and yellow livery.
Yeah.
Throw back to the 1995 McLaren F1 GTR of Derek and Justin Bell and Andy Wallace. A very cool livery indeed.
It really is. I actually have, while these guys do another lap, I actually have quite a funny story about Derek Bell. When I was a bit younger, it was 2007, so yes, I was younger then. A lot younger. I feel a lot older now. We were at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and it's actually, funnily enough, I'm actually wearing the same shirt right now that I got at the Goodwood Festival of Speed in 2007. And we were on the exit of Turn 1 with the Xerox Ducati racing team. We were with their hospitality through my dad's job. And I was sort of really getting into my supercars and my motorsport at the time, and sort of just reading out facts and things and saying stuff about the cars that were going past. And there was this sort of older gentleman stood next to me on these railings and just sort of saying, you know your stuff for your age, don't you, mate? And I was like, well, I'd just like to sort of know the facts and figures behind it all. And, you know, it's fun to learn about all of it and see how it all works. And there was a fun raffle prize over the course of the day. And you could win tickets to go and see World Superbikes at Brands Hatch from Xerox Ducati. So this guy asked me what my name was and my phone number, and he put it on his ticket and had like an extra entry for me. And my dad comes over and he's like sort of starstruck all of a sudden, like, "Oh my God, are you? I think you are." And he starts shaking this bloke's hand. And he's like, "Oh, it's an honour to meet you, mate, really." And I'm stood there confused, like, who the hell is this guy? And my dad goes, "Do you not know who it is? It's Derek Bell." And I'd been talking to him for about an hour and a half about supercars and every car that had gone past, not knowing who he was. So it just goes to show they can be anywhere.
There you are. Well, I was at the Rolex 24 at Daytona this year and bumped into him because his son Justin has a very cleverly named show that follows around the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship called the Torque Show, and it's spelt TORQUE, but of course it's sort of a play on words with Justin's English accent. And Derek was there watching the race, and Justin was, as he does, had a ever-growing group of attractive women sort of hanging off his every word. And while his father Derek quietly stood and quietly sat and watched the race, and we had a nice little chat. And actually, Derek is he's good friends with the one of the commercial team for the Porsche Club of Great Britain, a chap called Richard Watling, who used to work for Rothmans Porsche. So he worked for Rothmans in the 1980s, when, of course, that was really one of the golden eras of Porsche motorsport in the Rothmans Porsche days, when they had Beloff and Bell and Al Holbert and all these sorts of guys.
Yeah, there was some epic combinations of drivers as well. That's the thing as well. It's not just always Rieger's on the racing line there, going down the Crater curves. I like that livery as well, by the way. But just to come back to that point, there's usually you see these sorts of teams where they'll have had legendary drivers at certain points in their sort of team's history. But with Porsche, it wasn't just one driver at a time. They always had incredible duos and trios of these insanely talented drivers all at once, as Gary Duckmans goes for a bit of a spin there at McLean's. And he's going to light up the rears. Oh, well, I imagine you like that, didn't you, Jack? A good bit of noise.
Yeah, that's one of the party pieces of these things. If you leap it round, it's not all bad. You get to light up the rear tyres and get a beautiful noise out of the flat six. So it's not all bad if you end up pointing the wrong way. But I'm guessing that won't be the first time we see a couple of drivers pointing the wrong way. I'm not trying to like put a curse on it, but we've mentioned it before. These cars are quite hard to get a handle on, and yes, once you're in a rhythm, they're sort of yours to sort of control. But as soon as you go slightly out of that rhythm, it will bite you. And these cars, they're sort of renowned for either rotating on the brakes or rotating coming out of a corner, and I'm guessing we will end up seeing a bit of that over race 1 and race 2.
Yeah, definitely. We'll certainly see a couple of these guys losing it on the brakes. These cars do like to snatch a brake. We've got Andrew Marston here just getting in the way of current pole sitter Matthew Dorrington. Ryan Parkins is second at the moment, just over a tenth behind. There's the number 8 car going down the inside there. That's Mark Baxter Jones in the very brightly mint-coloured car. Quite a fan of that as well, to be honest with you. Really do like that. Nice simple livery, but it certainly shows off the beautiful curves of the Porsche 911 Cup car. Now, one thing that does, I'm going to apologise in advance to Porsche Sport and Strasser that are watching at the moment as well, because I know that Porsche is their life. But one thing that really does sort of frustrate me is the fact that these cars are called the GT3 Cup, but they're not GT3 specification. What do you think of that, Peter?
Well, they're sort of based on the GT3. In fact, they actually have a little bit less horsepower than the current GT3 road car. And I have to say, the 911 GT3 road car with a manual gearbox, for me, that is about as good as it gets. It's a lovely bit of kit. And of course, but they have something that we were talking a lot about, the engine and the sound of these cars. It's something that's getting ever rarer in motorsport, is having normally aspirated racing cars. So these Porsches, they have a 4-litre flat 6, so 6-cylinder engine, flat 6 boxer engine, and that obviously produces a very unique sound. And we really should cherish cars like these, because there are getting fewer and fewer cars with naturally aspirated motors in them, with many not only road cars but racing cars going to a more turbocharged model. I never thought I'd see the day when a 911 RSR went to twin turbocharged, and we saw those out at Silverstone for the first time in the World Endurance Championship in September. So yeah, they are a pretty sophisticated bit of kit though, this 911 GT3 Cup. And of course, a car that you can use all over the world, and have launched the careers of so many top-level racing drivers. Yeah,
that's the thing. I mean, they are really seen as a brand that is such a push up to promoting really great talent, and you see a lot of them come through the different ranks, whether it be the Porsche Carrera Cup GB, or whether it be any of the sort of Super Cups that you see all over the world. It's such a global brand now, is Porsche, with motorsport. They do a fantastic job of it. And we get to witness it in terms of a sim racing level as well, not just in the real world, but it's represented so well over a number of different sims, and iRacing having a very strong partnership with Porsche is great for us to watch. And not just this car as well, really. I mean, Jack, you've seen a lot of action in terms of all the different types of Porsche that we have on iRacing, whether it comes to an LMP1 or a GT4. And they have these extra, I don't know, I can't even put my finger on what it is, but they've just got something, haven't they, that just makes them so more exciting to watch.
They really do. I've got to say, the background of just Porsche in motorsport really does help. And I'm guessing it's the small things as well, like the liveries. Yes, they go fast, they sound amazing. And if they look fast, that just adds that extra little bit. And Porsche have just got it right. They know exactly what they need to do with motorsport. They've got a car with, like you mentioned, Pete, they've not got the same amount of horsepower, or if not a little bit less to the road car, but they're that much lighter because obviously they're completely stripped out. So it just makes a perfect race car. It's well balanced when you drive within your limits. You start pushing it a little bit harder, it will start to punish you, which is really good for driver development, like we mentioned. So they've just got it right. Porsche know exactly what they're doing, and I hope they carry on producing amazing pieces of kit like this.
And I can't resist going back on board again as we go now with Mark Bow, or Bow, however he wants me to say it, down towards the old hairpin. And considering that he was a little bit out of shape going into there, he got it tucked in well. He's going to back off here, though, at this point, by the look of it. He's not flat out on a lap at the moment. We'll go on board. This is Austin Gritorex, just going into the final corner, a little bit early into the hairpin there, but it's so easy to do when it's a late apex like that. We've got Dave Cam in the chat, everybody. We are joined by Royalty. Thank you, everybody, by the way, that has tuned in so far. We currently have just over 70 viewers on the YouTube stream, over 30 of you on Facebook. I see you over there. Not getting enough time to check both of the chats at the moment, unfortunately, though, but thank you for tuning in. Please do remember to like the videos as well that you are watching currently. Subscribe to Simracersworld TV as well. We have plenty of action coming up for you. We have 3 broadcasts on today as well, this being the first of 3, so plenty of motorsport for you to watch on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. I know that a lot of you would like to be outside in the sun, especially over here in the UK. We're having a gorgeous day so far, but I'm a PC gamer. I do not like sunshine. So let's just have a look, because I mean at the moment on my timing screen, I mean you'll see it as well, Jack and Peter, we've got 4 cars at the moment at the top that are designated by red, and then sort of a bit more of a spread through a field. But it looks like these top 5, I mean they were similar in practice as well, as Carl Sharkey gets close to the back of Carl Hazelton there. Sorry, not Carl Hazelton, Mark Searle. There seems to be a bit of a theme here. There's a couple that are breaking away. There's especially the top 3 at the moment, over a second clear of everyone else.
Yeah, the Carl Sharkey in the 77, interestingly, he's managed to drag, I'm watching him on screen right now, he's managed to drag himself up a little bit higher than he was in practice, and I noticed over the last few laps he was really doing well to hang on to the back of Matthew Donington, who's one of the very fastest drivers in the Porsche Club of Great Britain sim racing community, and he won both races in the recent International Sim Racing Challenge, where the Porsche Club of Great Britain went up against the Porsche Club of America in a kind of transatlantic match race format, a little bit like we used to have here back in the 1980s in the motorcycle world. We had the transatlantic match races where the United States went up against Great Britain, and that was where we saw the arrival of Freddie Spencer, a young Freddie Spencer who went on to be a multiple Grand Prix champion. So Matthew did incredibly well to fend off some really quick drivers from the Porsche Club of America. But yes, Carl was able to hook in behind Matthew there and able to put in what I believe was his fastest lap of the day so far. So just shows you if you can get behind the right driver, it really can make a difference to drag you up the field.
Yeah, and it certainly nails home the what you mentioned before about getting that bit of slipstream, even on a track where it's not too effective, like Donington Park, and just making the most of every single tenth, every single thousandth. You can see here now Kyle Henney's going really deep into the hairpin to get a good run onto the straight. Just ahead of him there, we had a car facing backwards, but they've managed to get it out of the way. Ryan Penny's just had a bit of an excursion off the circuit. And Ryan Penny, we were very impressed by this livery before, because he actually has a novice sticker on the back of it, which you don't really see in sim racing, because it's not really something that's required, but it's good to see that sort of thing coming out in sim racing. It's almost like a bit of banter, really, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, it adds that extra bit. We did mention the liveries. There is a massive range of obviously spec maps, colour combinations, everything like that, and to add that extra little bit of detail, and even if it's not necessarily something everybody likes to put on their car, whether it's like their choice or not, but to put it on, it makes the grid look that bit more realistic. I haven't seen it on any other car on iRacing ever, so it makes it look that much better. I can't get over the sort of the level of detail that people will put into their liveries. It's crazy.
It's not the sort of thing you'd consider as well when you're going onto sim racing, that people would put novice stickers on, but it's just a really nice touch to have. It does have the word aviation on the front of it as well, so naturally I'm attracted to that car and intrigued as to what aviation ties there are involved in that, because anything will do. Riga Racing though, this is quite a nice livery, this, and that, to be honest, I mean, when you see liveries on iRacing, and I'm sure you'll agree on this as well, Peter, when you see a livery on iRacing, you can sometimes consider whether it would be realistic in terms of would that actually make a livery in real life as well, because sometimes, they push the boundaries a bit with the fact that it is a sim and you can have all these crazy effects on the cars and make them look absolutely wonderful, but you've got to consider that sometimes a real team wouldn't actually put the time and effort into making a livery look like that. But this Riga Racing one, that's a genuinely what I'd call a believable livery, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and also one thing that makes it very authentic, and also we must remind our viewers that this is effectively an official Porsche Club Motorsport series. Of course, the Porsche Club of Great Britain have a very active motorsport community in the real world around the brilliant circuits that we have here in the United Kingdom. We're very lucky. Some of the great circuits that we have, Donington Park being one of them. And of course, in the real world, the Porsche Club of Great Britain Motorsport have a couple of very, very loyal sponsors who've supported the club's activities for many years. And of course, you can see a few of them on the cars. You'll see Pirelli, you'll see Petro Canada Lubricants on the windscreen strip as well, and also locked-in insurers as well. And Pirelli in particular, in fact, Pirelli have been producing bespoke tyres for Porsche vehicles for a number of years. In fact, Porsche were the first car manufacturer to approach Pirelli to make a bespoke tyre, because of course this 911 GT3 Cup car is a perfect example, or any 911 for that matter. Of course, a rear-engined layout, not a mid-engine, a rear engine, so the engine right over the back wheels, and that puts quite a unique demand on the tyres. So Pirelli designed a specific tyre with a specific tread pattern that actually can make your 911 kind of optimized. So you can go to your local Pirelli Performance Centre with any type of Porsche now, not just a 911. They make them for the Macan and Cayenne SUV as well, and they can get a specific Pirelli tyre for your Porsche. And if your Porsche's been sitting about in the garage during lockdown and you're about to get it out in the sunny weather, make sure you've got some good tyres on it first.
Yeah, definitely. It's great though, you know, that there is that sort of tie-in with a major brand like Pirelli, and it just shows that they take things so seriously. Brands in the real world, when it comes to motorsport, over time, we used to see race cars with no logos on them whatsoever. They used to literally just be paint it red, put a big number on the side of it, send it out, it's fine. But now they're moving advertising hoardings, aren't they, Jack? Because it's just one of the biggest ways to get exposure now, isn't it, for your cars and your company, essentially?
Yeah, it really is. You associate motorsport with sort of like a quality brand as well, because you're not going to go out in a car that you don't trust. So if you get a brand or a sponsor on board, you're going to sort of link that as a spectator to that's a brand I can trust. And it's just such a good sort of marketing opportunity, because cars are only really getting bigger. You look back sort of 20, 30 years, the cars were quite small in comparison to what we've got nowadays. Obviously, you've got all the tech and the electronics to squeeze into the car, as well as all the bits that make it go. So they're only getting bigger, which means like teams can spend more on, obviously, or sponsors can spend more on getting their logo on the side, which means they get more coverage. So I'm only hoping that motorsport gets bigger from this point, because if cars are getting bigger, motorsport earns more money and sponsors earn more money, so they invest more, and it's just sort of like an upward loop from there.
Definitely, and it's all about business, that's the thing. At the same time, people have to remember that we do love motorsport, and these guys get involved in it because they enjoy it, but with motorsport you want to win, and that's the main reason why you get in there as well. I'm quite a fan of this livery at the moment that we're looking at on the Ryan Ratcliffe car. Anyone that knows Simracersworld and Simracersworld TV know that we're a fan of white, black and orange, so that scores highly with us. We've got Angus Archer here in the number 70 machine, a little bit further down the order, in 18th place at the moment. And another one it's quite a simple livery there, but it makes use of the panel lines and the shape of this beautiful, beautiful car. Here is Gary Duckman's had another spin and another light up of the rears there for you, Jack. I think he might pop it back to the pits. No, he continues. We will actually give you our first replay of the day here, just to show you what happened. And I was going to mention this before, but when you're coming out of there, Peter, when you're on the power and trying to get the car set up to go down the straight, you don't really want to be lifting because of the run that you've got coming up. But sometimes we're going to see these guys gradually loop it, aren't we? No traction control, of course, in these things.
Yes, exactly, and they are very communicative. You know, the car does kind of let you know, and again, that kind of run out of coppice, third, possibly fourth gear, depending on how you like to drive the corner. And yes, the balance of the throttle, and you're going to get a little bit of oversteer. Just a tiny bit of oversteer isn't too bad. I remember a few months ago I interviewed Rory Butcher, current British touring car driver and last year's independent champion, and he started off in Carrera Cup racing for a team called Celtic Speed, and he said that even just a little bit of slide on exit is okay as long as you can control it, and that coming out of coppice onto the Starkey straight and into the Fogger TS's, but mainly on that exit of coppice as you click into fourth gear, just managing the throttle and that oversteer is a key thing. So we'll not get a better example of it than MacKay here and using all the curb on the exit and keeping the car nice and straight and onto the power. That is a textbook example of how to drive that corner. It's interesting the point you make about motorsport and business. Porsche, throughout their over 70-year history now, they have had a continuous commitment to motorsport, and you see many brands who come in and out of their involvement with motorsport, but Porsche have remained committed no matter what. And they are officially the most profitable car company in the world. So car companies that think that coming in and out of motorsport is just an expensive exercise and wasteful, well, Porsche have proven that actually a complete commitment to motorsport over a long period of time does give a good impression of the brand and also the durability of that brand. The other company, and pretty much the only other car company that have had a continuous commitment to motorsport, is Ferrari. And since Ferrari floated on the stock market a couple of years ago, their share prices continue to rise. In fact, it more than trebled. So a commitment to motorsport actually can make business sense, but you've got to stick in it for the long term, like Porsche have.
Yeah, and you can see that they've used the market to their advantage. They don't just compete in other people's series as well. That's the thing. They don't just go in multi-class or multi-car championships. They have so many of their one-make series all over the world that really drills home the fact that it has become so popular, and that's what we love to see, because at the end of the day, we've been saying it all the way through the beginning of the broadcast, they do just promote good racing, and they've got the right formula for it. So it's just proofs in the pudding with that, really. There's a car off in the background there. I think it was Gavin Halls going around at the chicane, and this is another thing that's easy to do. He's just clipped the grass on the way in, but that chicane can be a bit of a pain in the backside, can't it, Jack? Because it does go over a bit of a crest part way through and then dip down again on the exit. So it's easy to see the grip go away and then have it come back to you and the car spit you out the other side.
Yeah, it really is. We've said these cars are hard to get some sort of a handle on, and there was a camera angle earlier looking right down the straight. With this, the number 26 car, Mark Phillips, going for a bit of an off-track excursion on the exit of the old hairpin, kisses the wall, quite a big hit into the wall. But yeah, there was a camera angle a little earlier on which was looking down the back straight, and you could really see the undulation in the circuit, which you don't necessarily see when you're driving a car. That's Gavin. It was that Gavin Halls again, going for another loop, going around one of the hairpins here at Donington Park. But yeah, it's one of those circuits where you know it's got undulation, but it's got minor little bits as well. Like going into the GP hairpin, there's a little crest just before you drop down. So there's those tiny little bits which can catch you off guard. And in these cars, which are hard to drive to start off with, it really just adds that extra sort of difficulty factor to take into consideration before you go out on the track.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the key parts of this track as well, where the Dunlop Bridge used to be down that back straight, there is a very severe sudden sort of crest. And I never knew how severe it was, playing it on old racing games such as like TOCA 2. It was sort of, I thought, that's exaggerated. And then when you see it on something like iRacing, of course it's laser scanned, you see it in real life and you think, wow, that is a very sharp, sudden bit of a hill, to be honest. And we've got MacKay, who's just on a lap at the moment, and you can tell he's on a lap because he's not gone out wide to try and get the best run. He knows this is his last lap of the session. He's going to be the last car across the line, I think, although Gary Duckman is still on track. He flashes his lights, he's happy with that. Is that a personal best? No, he hasn't registered anything quicker. But it is Gary Duckman in the very bright orange car that is the last one out on track at the moment. And he's going to round out our session. But we have two races coming up for you just now then. So we've got two 20-minute races today. The first one determined by qualifying, which we have just watched there and then. And then we have a reverse grid for race 2. The finishes of race 1 will be reversed, and we'll see how well these guys pick their way through the order. Let's just see if Gary Duckman can improve on his time. His best time at the moment, a 1:33.55. His last one was a 2:09.4. It was an outlap, so that's nothing to worry about. He's a bit deep into the hairpin though. He keeps the momentum even though it does go wide, and that can be a bit of a telling tale with some of these hairpins on pretty much most circuits as well. You can hang it around the outside and keep the speed up, or you can keep a tight line on the inside, but it's all about opening the line up. See what he does, and yeah, that is going to be the end of it. So we are going to have a grid for you then for the first time today. MacKay takes pole position from Matthew Dorrington. Ryan Parkins and Carl Sharkey make up row 2, with Austin Greatorex and Gavin Halls on row 3. Mark Baxter-Jones and Ian Hannon make up row 4. Just behind them, rounding out your top 10, is Dan Bathy, and alongside him in 10th is Mark Phillips. We then have Paul Rieger and Mark Bowe on row 6. Then we have Stuart Clark and Ryan Ratcliffe on row 7. Then it's James Cummings alongside Danny Jones, with Angus Archer and Gianluca Elia. Then it's John Westbrook and Ryan Penny rounding out your top 20, with Carl Hazelton, Amrik Sakdev, Gary Duckman and Mark Searle in 24th. And then the last row of the grid there, Andrew Marston and Chris Bowie rounding out your field. So, There's the field in front of us then. What do you reckon we're going to see here from the start with these boys on this one, Peter? It's going to be a bit of a close fight, isn't it?
It certainly is. I mean, the top 3 covered by 4/1000ths of a second in qualifying, which is just extraordinary. And then the 4th back to 9th covered by just 0.3 of a second. So I think we're going to see the top 3 of Donington, Kyle Henny and Parkins perhaps making a breakaway. But there's going to be a really fierce battle in the midfield. I tell you what, I cannot wait for this race. It's brilliant to see such a big grid of cars from a paddock in the Porsche Club of Great Britain that only got started just over a month ago. Just really excited to see the guys ready to race.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome to see how they handle it. What about you, Jack? Do you reckon we're going to see much battling with these guys, or are they going to try and break away?
I think we will. I'm not 100% sure whether we picked up on it, but Kyle Henny did post that that provisional pole time very late on in the session. And then Dorrington got up to P2, but we've got the red lights going on now to start the first of 2 20-minute races, and we go green here.
Oh, look at that run through the middle.
First round, Porsche Club, and there's a couple of cars going backwards. That was the number 7 car splitting across the middle of the entire pack. Kyle Henny is still just about in the lead. I say that, but Parkins gets an amazing run around the outside. He can't quite keep it though. Dorrington is still there in P3. Kyle Henny just manages to get through the first couple of corners, still in P1. Dorrington is now who was side by side with Parkins, but got the move done going down Craner curves, going into the old hairpin for the first time. Everybody gets it slowed down, and it looks like we're clean for the most part, apart from that first lap incident, Chaz.
Oh, Gretorix has gone slow on the exit of the old hairpin, and he's been absolutely clattered there. And off the circuit he goes, but it was the number 7, Paul Rieger. I think he just lit up the rears off the start, you know, and the car went completely around on him. It was an amazing start by Ryan Parkins. He shot through the middle of them, but managed to just overdo it going into turn 1. He ran wide and then couldn't keep the momentum, and then lost the place as they went back down the hill, down the Craner curve. So Ryan Ratcliffe is at the moment your biggest mover in the field. He's gained 5 places. Stuart Clark's gone off the circuit in the background, manages to get it back together, but he's got quite a bit of damage on the front of the car, so not sure whether it was him that hit Rieger at the start. Oh, Danny Jones has gone straight on as well. The Haribo's in the gravel trap. Clean it off and then have a think about eating it, boys, but hopefully he can continue. No damage on the car. He's just down the inside. He's late on the brakes, so has to get out of the way. Oh, there's bits of contact as well. The 99 gets clattered into by Stuart Clark. Oh, it was a bit of a messy one through there, and I think Stuart lost it on his own there, to be honest, Peter. But like we said before, these guys all getting used to the different pace, and you can see now a clear breakaway with the top 4 here.
Yeah, that in the old the Melbourne hairpin, it was once referred to by Eddie Lawson as like riding around a car park when it was first made. It was actually made so that Donington Park could hold Grand Prix racing on both 2 and 4 wheels. We've got to give a mention to Austin Greatorex there. I mean, he ran wide onto the gravel, so easy to do on lap 1, coming out of the old hairpin on cold tyres, and he got a little bit loose, and then Mark Phillips right behind and just collected him. So Austin was actually, I believe, an outside contender for a podium. Of course, he was our winner in the warm-up race last time out. So, but remember, we must make our reviewers aware that in iRacing, there is the option of what is called a fast repair. So that means that the drivers can basically come in and hop in a spare car in more simple terms. It means they just come in, stop, get their fast repair, and the car is back to 100% again. Of course, it does mean coming into pit lane, but it means that their car is back at full performance. And Austin is quick enough that if he goes in and gets his car fixed, he should be able to cut through the field and hopefully score, at least salvage some points, and then go for it with a good grid position in race 2. But looks like he's really struggling here. He's got a lot of damage there. If I were him, I'd come in, take the fast repair, and go for it from there.
Yeah, you've got to take it at the right time and make sure that you don't lose too much, or think about taking it as early as possible so you can get back on it with a car that is absolutely fine. The only 4 cars at the moment that haven't changed places in the entire field are actually these top 4 here. We're just looking down at Carl Sharkey at the moment, trying to stay with Ryan Parkins, but the top 3 only separated here by 1.2 seconds, with Ryan just chasing down Matthew Dorrington, and ahead of him, Kyle Henny still leading this race. But we're just going to have a quick look back at the start, because Kyle Henny didn't get the best getaway, you know. And you'll see here as well, we'll stay above actually. Watch Ryan Parkins just pop through the middle. He gets such a good launch, doesn't he? And then Kyle Henny nearly comes over on him. He squeezes past. And then just as they go into turn 1, you've got Dorrington defending there from Sharkey. And then he just doesn't manage to get the car settled, does he, on the exit? And then once he's on the outside going down the crane of curbs, there's no coming back from that, really, is there, Jack? You've got to try and slot in as best you can, as the battle's now actually heating up a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of those sections of circuit I struggle to go down by myself, so let alone too wide. It must have been quite scary for Parkins, just had to concede the position. But we have had a change for the lead now. Matthew Dorrington is now leading Kyle Henney, so those two have swapped positions, but that doesn't mean Kyle Henney is going to let the position go at any ease. There's 2 tenths between them at the moment. Here is a replay of the change for the lead. There was a bit of barging there. That was Dorrington trading a bit of paint and maybe swapping a wing mirror on the way up to the back straight. But Dorrington is now in the lead of the race, and we're only 4 minutes into the race, and we've seen action from top to bottom of the field. And these four, I'm guessing they're going to be glued together for the rest of the race. Well,
I hope so, because it's great battling. We've got Gary Duckman off the circuit again, unfortunately. We've got a good battle going on here, actually. This is Amrik Sakdev with Gratorex just behind him, and then Stuart Clark and Paul Rieger. They're going to make contact, though. I think Stuart did turn across him on the way in, unfortunately, and he is parked on the inside. Let's have a quick look. Oh, it's a bit late for that, isn't it? Yeah, Stuart just, unfortunately, doesn't leave him the room there, and they come together. Although I think Paul has actually waited for him to get going again so he can take the position back. He has. That's quite nice to see, actually, because, I mean, personally, wow, the car behind them is in a bit of a state of Danny Jones. That's the Haribo car. But in that case there, I didn't really think that was Rieger's fault. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's so tight there coming into that final hairpin there at Goddard's. It's always a little bit of a Constantina effect. It's actually a really tricky braking zone, a little bit off camber, and again, these 911 GT3 Cup cars are not easy to modulate the brake, and very, very easy to lock up as well. Now, just looking on screen here, MacKay Henney, the number 14, it looks like he's gone off, so let's get a replay of this. Yeah, just that is so easy to do there, going through the foggy S's. The car you go over the curbs, it gets a little bit loose, and that's MacKay Henney out of the running for this race 1 victory. Now, just going back to the start there, we saw, as you said, MacKay Henney didn't get the best of starts from pole position, but what I noticed was that he had left a little bit of a black mark on his grid spot. So I think that MacKay Henney didn't use the car's inbuilt launch control, but those around him did. It is some of the drivers seem to be aware that there's a launch control system on this car, and some do not. And I think that might have been well, neither was I until last week. And interestingly, Paul Rieger in the 7 car, in that blue and white car, we saw him getting involved in an incident straight off the line. Now, he was actually the guy that made us all aware in the paddock that it did have a launch control system. So perhaps he got a launch and then straight into the car in front, possibly. Hopefully we'll hear from some of the drivers after the race, and they'll tell us a bit more about it. But I suspect that might have been what happened up the front with MacKay Henney.
Yeah, I think it was just he lit up the rears. He might have got that much of a launch, maybe tried to turn out of the way of somebody, and then you know how easy it is to light up these rears and put it around. But it means now Kyle Henney has dropped off a bit. He's 9 seconds off these lead 3. You've got Matthew Dorrington leading the race then with Ryan Parkins behind. There is Ryan as we go on the gearbox cam. We get to listen to the beautiful flat 6 down the straight. 7.5 minutes gone here, but this is the thing with these sorts of races, isn't it, Jack? We can fly through 20-minute sprint races like it was a 3-lap sprint because there's just so much going on, isn't there?
You really can. You can look at one battle, then look at another, and then look at one other, and then that's the 4-kilometre circuit. Just like that's one lap of it completed. They do go really quickly. You can see Dorrington starting to build a bit of space between him and Parkins behind, and obviously now after that incident, Kyle Sharkey is in P3, and you've got Kyle Henney doing everything he can to work his way back up the order and back up to what will be a podium place. This is James Cummings deciding that he wants to go backwards through the hairpin, very sideways. It's a very odd incident. He did a great job of saving it. I'm not 100% sure how he's managed to do that. I know I wouldn't be able to. Do we see a similar incident for John Westbrook? We don't. Very adventurous way to enter the pit lane with a bit of a kiss of the wall. Grabs reverse, and does he continue into the pit lane? He doesn't. He decides to stay out on circuit, and that is a very, very second-hand looking Porsche 911. But we've seen a couple of cars battered and bruised, and some of them have got battle scars. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be at the back. We've seen some very clean cars at the back as well. Maybe people just trying to avoid the incidents and stay at the back. And obviously we have got that reverse grid race after this, which is also 20 minutes. So if you're at the back in a nice clean car and you get a clean race, you're going to be on for a really, really good starting position in the next one, Chaz.
Yeah, that's it. You need to still push, obviously, to try and get the points. This is a championship. It's not just a one-off event for anybody wondering. We have a full series of this for you. 8 weeks of the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Series. And to be honest with you, I can't wait for the rest of it. It's going to be great to see how the championship pans out. We've got such a great spread of talent across the board as well, and it's nice to see in a championship like this, because sometimes when you have all the greatest drivers in the world in one sort of set in some of these championships, it can sort of spoil the fun a little bit. You know, it's always good to have a bit of an enjoyable time with these things. It's what we want out of sim racing. We want to be able to enjoy it all. Gary Duckman and Carl Hazelton had a bit of an incident before. They're now swapping places again. That is for 20th place. Duckman going through in the orange machine. He's had a couple of spins so far over the course of the day, but he's managed to turn the car around very quickly and crack back on with it, which is the best thing to do. Carl Hazelton is just going to drop off a little bit there. Biggest mover in the field at the moment, I'll just show you on the left-hand side of your screen, everybody. You can see that the man in 5th position, Ryan Ratcliffe, has gained 9 spots from where he started, and it's equal with Amrik Sakdev in 13th position. It's not an easy feat round here, is it, Peter, to gain that many places, even with a bit of carnage and a couple of incidents going on?
Yeah, there are a few opportunities to make a move, like, for example, here down into the Melbourne hairpin, perhaps at Goddard as well. But you've really got to have a significant advantage to make the move stick, and also you've got to trust that the guy that you're going past has seen you or is not going to shut the door on you, because we see that a lot here at Donington Park at some of these slower first gear hairpins. If you put a move in, you often see some people turning in, so that's something to be careful of. Just a shout out to Gavin Halls in the Harrods car, the 55 Harrods car, sitting in pit lane, and didn't look to be going much in a hurry. But he's back out again, so he's obviously taking his fast repair, and goodness me, he's onto the grass there. Gavin is going to be one of our championship protagonists, I'm sure of it. So this isn't a great start to his championship campaign at all, but of course he will have a good grid spot for race 2, so watch out for him in race 2, because he has really, really good pace.
Yeah, he's managed to be a lap down from some damage earlier, I think. I did just notice as well, actually, Chris Bowie is now the biggest mover in the field because of the fact that Amrik Sakdev, as soon as I said he was the biggest mover in the field, looked away from him and then he went off. So the commentator's curse from my end still living very, very strong. Now the battle for the lead is very close again here. Matthew Dorrington is only just under 0.4 of a second ahead of Ryan Parkins. Actually, if we go on the gearbox cam, you can see him closing in. You can see the car not quite behaving itself on the brakes, and they close up into the hairpin and then open back up down the straight. Interestingly enough, Carl Hazelton is only one of 3 cars that are where they started. Mark Baxter-Jones and Ian Hannon in 7th and 8th have been reunited in their starting positions from the 4th row of the grid, but this battle really heating up for the lead now, Jack, as they've sort of dropped Carl Sharkey. At this point of the race, if you're Ryan Parkins, do you try and get the move done now and break away, or do you just sort of sit behind and wait till it's a little bit later in the race to make the move?
I think with 7.5 minutes to go, it's probably worth going for it, because we did mention at the start of this of qualifying even, and probably even into practice, that this is quite a hard circuit to overtake on and get the position made. So as soon as you get a position present itself, I think you've just got to go for it. And you did mention the car not quite behaving itself. We noticed that in qualifying with Kyle Henney's car. It almost started to brake sideways, like it just didn't brake in a straight line. You can see Parkins running slightly wide there, going on to the back straight. So these cars, you're never really in control of them. It's sort of, I don't really know how to put it into words. You're not necessarily in full control of the car at all times. The car just decides where it wants to go, and you've just got to hope that that's the way you want to go.
Yeah, it's a good point made, to be fair, and I've just made it clear to me. I did think I recognised the name Ryan Ratcliffe. He's a previous British GT driver, so that'll be why he's doing so well at making it up the order. He knows how to go after positions in these sorts of cars. And in terms of getting these sim races against the real-life drivers, in these sorts of races, Peter. What do you think that goes through the head of these real life drivers when they see these opportunities come around to race these sorts of guys?
I think it's been fascinating. I mean, one of the longest standing Porsche factory drivers and the only North American Porsche factory driver, Patrick Long, he's relatively new to sim racing, but obviously incredibly experienced racing with Porsche for nearly 20 years now. And he said, I'll never look at this in the same way. I'll be using this technology a lot during the off season. And he says it's just amazing the pace of the very best sim racers in the world. And as he says if you commit that amount of time and effort to something, and anyone who's at the very top of any activity, whether it be in the sporting world or business or whatever, it is always really impressive. And he's been incredibly impressed and respectful of the quality of sim racers. And it's just fascinating to see the two worlds intertwine. I called a race earlier last week with some North American, effectively Formula Ford drivers, or what we would call Formula Ford here in the UK. And it was amazing watching the real world drivers, how their kind of racecraft was so important. And that's something that is really important to transfer from the real world into the sim world.
Yeah, it's been amazing over the course of lockdown since COVID-19. The amount of, as Ryan Ratcliffe just drops it there at the hairpin as well. We really are bringing out the commentators' curses today, aren't we, boys? Mark Bowe goes past him there. Stuart Clark's also had an issue. But I was just going to say, during lockdown, it's been great to see so many real-life drivers taking sim racing in open arms and properly getting involved with it and having fun with it as well. That's the thing. Obviously, it's thrown up some bits of controversy that we're not going to go into now, but there are so many different aspects that these drivers can try and bring into sim racing from real life, and some that we've seen sim racers take into real life scenarios. I mean, look at James Baldwin as a prime example. I've watched James for a long time, and he's gone to be world's fastest gamer and now actually races in real life, or he would be doing if it wasn't for lockdown, for Jenson Button's race team, Team LJN, in terms of the in the GT3 cars, in a McLaren 720S GT3. It's just crazy that it can get you places like that now, and it shows that there are so many ways to get into motorsport from it. But anyway, this is Mark Baxter-Jones. He's 6th at the moment now with Ryan Ratcliffe, who has definitely got the pace today. He's definitely shown that all over the back of him. And do you think this is a case of when, not if here, Jack?
Yeah. I just saw a car blinking away in the background. I'm not sure whether that's somebody returning back to the pit lane, but yeah, definitely it is a case of when, not if. We know that Baxter Jones is good on defence, but we know that Ryan Ratcliffe has got that real-life experience, and that could give him that extra little edge that you need in these Porsches to get past. And we saw those cars very, very close together, 3/10s, but now they're down to 2/10s, 1/10. He's looking to the inside. Is Baxter Jones on the brakes of one of the back markers? He tries to get by, gets compromised, and that slows him down on the exit and ends up getting turned around and parks the car on its roof. So I don't think grabbing a gear and putting your foot to the floor will help you much there, Mark. But that was just a case of sort of being really unlucky in the traffic. He looks to the inside of someone, puts his foot to the floor a little too early, and then he bounces off the black and orange machine.
I believe it was Ian Hannon that was chasing them down there. Not really much Ian could have done, to be honest, in that situation, but unfortunate that it exaggerated that slightly and put him on his roof. The car in front there is Gary Duckman in the 17. He's just a lap down at the moment in the orange car. And he's getting a flash as well from Ian Hannon, saying, no, not that kind of flash. Getting a headlight flash from Ian Hannon, saying, get out of the way, sunshine. I'm coming through. I'm a lap ahead of you, mate, so you need to be relinquishing that. He's braking in front of him now, and to be honest, Ian really needs to get him out of the way or just get past him sooner rather than later. He holds him up a little bit. But this is what we were talking about at the top of the broadcast, wasn't it, Peter? The fact that there is such a divide between some of the quick guys and some of the guys a bit further down the order, that the traffic will be a real issue in some cases, dependent on which car you come across.
It absolutely will, and I think over the course of the season, the drivers will, both at the front and the back of the field, will get a good understanding of the kind of habits and characteristics of one another, and that will just take time over the course of the season. Of course, we've got 8 different tracks to go to, and therefore 16 races, so there's going to be a lot. It's a long season, and I think actually it's not necessarily trying to break the record every time is going to be the person that wins this championship. I think it's actually going to be the people who has the least mistakes, and we've seen certainly a race of attrition so far here in race 1, but this is a fantastic battle as we reach the closing minutes. Number 11 of Matthew Donington and the number 225 of Parkins, a newcomer to certainly to the Porsche Club of Great Britain sim racing paddock, and it's just brilliant to see this real wheel-to-wheel action. And Parkins makes a little mistake there, and I think that could be decisive. That's given Donington just a little bit of breathing space.
Yeah, it's what you want as well when you're in the lead. You just want to have that little gap to think, right, come on, you've got to go after me now. Angus Archer's off in the number 70. Let's have a look what's happened to him. But yeah, like you said, Peter, for the lead, that bit of breathing room is oh so important. Oh, he tries to get out of the way of Gary Duckman, and he slams on as well. It's going to flat spot the tyres. And then he tries to light up the rears as well in the gravel and get it going. Doesn't quite go his way. But if you're Ryan Parkins, well, we were saying to go for the move, weren't we, Jack? But doesn't seem like it's going to be that simple now. Just over 5 minutes to go. He's really got to get his foot down, hasn't he, and put the pressure on.
He really has to. He needs to get his head down and just make this what will be the final lap of the race. Well, you got to pardon the pun, but the lap of the gods. Funnily enough, that was set here as well. So he's got to just nail every apex, and he pretty much nails turn 1, minimises the oversteer if any, and we know these Porsches are prone to a bit of turn in understeer, and then on corner exit you get some oversteer, so you've got to try and pilot these things as best you can going into the old hairpin as late as he dares on the brakes. You can see him closing up very slightly to Dorrington, but I think Dorrington, he knows what he needs to do, keep the car on the road and just keep that extra little buffer that he's already got ahead of Parkins, and he should cross the line P1.
Well, can the pressure make its way through to Dorrington? He seems like he's very committed at the moment. We saw his move on Kyle Henney was very boisterous. He said, nope, I'm coming through. I don't care what you think, mate. And Mark Baxter-Jones has come back out and gone off track again, unfortunately. Maybe back out on cold tyres, a bit deep into Redgate, and as soon as the rears catch the grass, it's going to rotate a bit more. Puts his foot down. You can see some of these guys actually do have the Porsche Club branding down the side of the cars, which is nice. I've realised as well, they do all have a similar sticker set on them all over, which is nice to see. And they've even got the Pirelli branding on too. So without even having a decal layer, which is something that a lot of these series tend to use in iRacing to make sure everyone's got the same stickers, they're all good to go. But it's going to be Matthew Dorrington then, round the final corner, and he's going to take the first win of the championship. Fantastic drive. Don't know what I was talking about, 5 minutes left. Parkins finishes second, and a great chase to the end, but unfortunately that mistake means he doesn't get it. Carl Sharkey is going to round out the podium. Kyle Henney doesn't quite get there in the end. And then Mark Bow is 25 seconds back. And, well, we were saying earlier, weren't we, Peter, that there is going to be a bit of a divide at the front, but those boys have really been the class of the field at the moment, hasn't they?
They really have, and there were a few drivers who I say would maybe been able to run that pace. You know, Carl Sharkey is certainly on similar pace to guys like Austin Greatorex and certainly Gavin Halls, but they were taken out of the reckoning early. So this, I tell you what, how good is this reverse grid race going to be? It was one of the main reasons. There's a lot of reasons why the reverse grid race 2 was added to the championship. One of those was obviously for the entertainment value. Of course, we see it used to great effect in the British Touring Car Championship in race 3 for them, but also to give those a chance again to have an inclusive atmosphere where those who are maybe perhaps further down the field get the chance to start at the front. So I think we are in for some great entertainment in race 2.
Yeah, for sure. It puts some of the lesser experienced guys at the front, and we'll have to see what sort of patience these quicker drivers have in trying to make their way through the order. Here's Chris Bowie just coming around the final corner. Ryan Penny is just ahead of them. And crossing the line there as well was the number 55 of... Where's he gone on my timing screen? Gavin Halls is actually in the pit lane at the moment, so apologies. I think it was actually... Yes, it was Ryan Penny. And number 99, he's actually got the number 55 painted on the back of the car, but he's not managed to get that number for the race. First race of the night, though. Well, first race of the afternoon. I'm so used to broadcasting at night that I always say that, so please do bear with me, everybody. It's difficult when I see daylight. First race out of our way, then, and very much done. Matthew Dorrington wins that one with a great drive, especially after such a decisive move on Kyle Henney. Then we have Ryan Parkins finishing second with Carl Sharkey and the aforementioned Kyle Henney in fourth. Mark Bow finishes in fifth with Ryan Ratcliffe sixth. James Cummings in seventh, ahead of Austin Greatorex in eighth, with Gianluca Elia, quite an under-the-radar performance there in ninth with Angus Archer in 10th position. Then it's Mark Phillips ahead of Ian Hannon and Danny Jones in the Haribo car. Then we have Paul Rieger, Chris Bowie and John Westbrook, with Stuart Clark and Amrik Sakdev one lap down in the end, actually. The other cars joining them one lap down is Mark Baxter-Jones, Carl Hazelton, Gary Duckman, Mark Searle and Ryan Penny. 2 laps down was Andrew Marston, with Gavin Halls 6 laps down, and unfortunately Dan Bathy didn't even complete a handful of laps by the look of it. But that will bring us to the end of race 1 then, everybody. What we're going to do now is just take a quick break while the guys set up the second session of the afternoon. Please stay with us on Simracersworld TV and Porsche Club GB on Facebook as well. We'll be back with you in about 10-15 minutes time. Thank you everybody for sticking around. At the moment we will be back in just a few minutes with the second race of the afternoon. The guys are just getting it all set up now, and we'll be back on track at Donington Park in just a few minutes, so please bear with us. Well, welcome back everybody, welcome back straight away, and before we know it, we're actually here already in the second race. These guys have got it done incredibly quickly, and the lights are already going out. I'm not sure how they've got it turned around that quickly. Stuart Clark has already jumped the start. He's managed to get the car bobbing off the line. He's not gone anywhere. There's a really, really good start in the middle there. I think that's Angus Archer going down the inside of the 70. Jack and Peter, are you with me, Sunshines? Because this is kicked off already.
We certainly are. I'm just watching it on the in the sim right now, and it looks like the drivers have got way a bit more cleanly into turn one.
Oh, Mark Searles around in the middle of Crane of Curves. This is going to be a nightmare. Oh, he's in the air.
Oh.
Yeah, he's been smacked into. There's two more cars around in the background as well. There's people all over the shop. Oh, wow. Mark Phillips is off as well. We've got pretty much all the cars off the circuit in the midfield. Mark Baxter Jones in there. Oster and Gretorix as well. Paul Rieger's back to the pit lane. Angus Archer's around in front of the field at the McLean's as well. Some of the guys behind have all made contact, and that's Dan Bathy going off. He's hard into the tyres. Stuart Clark was involved in that, facing the wrong way. Oh, it's absolutely kicked off, and Amrik Sakdev is actually leading the way. Now the top 5 guys have all pretty much gained about 10 places off the start of this one. It's a crazy, crazy difference already, boys.
It really is. I was just looking up to the timing screens. Matt Kyle Henney is already up to P3, so he has had an absolutely amazing start. And Amrik Sakdev and Gavin Halls must just be rubbing their hands together. That's Ryan Ratcliffe getting collected by, I think, was that Ryan Parkins?
I think Ryan actually spun it himself, you know, and then he got caught up. Mark Bowes in there as well. He's off. Oh, it's really kicked off. But I tell you what, Amrik Sakdev will be laughing all the way to the bank, and so will Gavin Halls. Actually, Peter, you were saying before how quick he is, but to be honest, he's flown up the order now and he's gained 15 places in one lap. He must be laughing.
Yeah, I think he was starting in 4th position, and I thought, yeah, he's going to be the man to watch. I don't think there is. I don't think there's many cars anywhere on circuit without some form of damage. Even Gavin looks to have just a little bit at the front, but doesn't seem to be curtailing his pace just yet. Same with MacKay. His car does look a bit more second-hand, but again, doesn't appear to be hampering his pace. And of course, a MacKay in a 90% car can be faster than a lot of people in a 100% car. So let's keep an eye on that. And there he goes past. Now, we must give a little update. The lovely Ellie from SW Engineering has given me a mid-race update saying that Matt is going back to university next week. That's him on screen just now. He's gone straight into the lead. Now, he's going back to university next week, so this will be his last race in the championship. So it'll be nice to see him get a win to go back to university with.
Yeah, that's well, obviously real life comes first over sim racing. Oh, Ian Hannon's gone off from 3rd place. He's going to gradually recover, but before that he'd gained 16 places. Ryan Parkins has gained 18 spots so far, up to 6th position. And, well, I mean, I don't know about you, Jack. I was expecting some of these guys to rise back to the top over the course of the race, but not by the end of lap 2.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Obviously, we've already got Matt Kyle-Henny in the lead at the moment, and Austin Greatorex. We saw a slightly dampened performance from him in race 1, but he's doing everything he can to work his way back up the order. That's Ryan Parkins. That's Dan Bathey going backwards at the bottom of the Melbourne hairpin. Gets it pointing the right way, but after that he's lost a couple of positions. He's now down in P8 from what I think was P6 at the time. Matthew Dorrington made the most out of that. He's now up to P6, gaining 17 positions. Ahead of him is Ryan Parkins with now 19 positions gained to his name. Austin Greatorex in front of him has got 18. So there's been plenty of drama in the first opening couple of laps, and a lot of drivers, they're rubbing their hands together, because a lot of them, I think pretty much all of the top 7 have gained almost double-figure positions.
Yeah, Amrit Sakdev has gained 5 at the moment, but even then he'll be happy with that. The guys around him have gained 14, 16, 18, 19, 17 and 12. So they are really flying. We have lost, I believe, we've still got some cars back out on track actually after getting fast repairs. The likes of Paul Rieger, Carl Sharkey, Chris Bowie, Mark Sill's gone off the circuit at the old hairpin again. Unfortunately for him. Let's have a quick look at what happened to Mark Sill. Is he just going to light it up on the exit? Is he just going to clip the grass? Yeah, to be fair as well, he tried to get it slowed down. Oh, that's a big hit in the wall. It didn't look like it had been that damaged, but he did try and get it slowed down. And we were looking at Paul Rieger a moment ago, and we've moved away, and I think he's just going to drop it here. Or is he going to park it? No, he's parked the car, and I think that's him. I hope that's not him giving up. We don't want to see people giving up at this point, but it is easy to get frustrated in these scenarios, isn't it, Peter?
It is, and it's obviously a reverse grid race. It's really
oh no, boys!
Oh dear! For those who saw that on screen, sorry to interrupt. Dan Bathey in the 23 getting involved in a bit of a collision there. Now, I think what 2 guys we really want to mention here is Parkins and Dorrington, our 2 leaders from race 1. I think it's probably no accident that they have got cleanly through all that mess. I think that obviously they've shown their incredible pace on a single lap, as they did in race 1, and they were out in their own league, Dorrington and Parkins. However, coming through the field is obviously incredibly tricky, and I think their presence of mind and perhaps patience as well has helped them to get through all that drama. So we're riding on board with the 20 of Matthew Dorrington, our race 1 winner, and he's chasing down Ryan Parkins in 4th position ahead of him. So I actually think by the end of the race we could see a really good 4-way battle or perhaps even 5-way battle between the top 5 that we see right now. So I think we're going to get a great race here in this race 2.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how these guys make their way through. And 6 minutes of the race gone already. I can't believe how fast that's flown by. It's unbelievable, the pace of this. Yeah, apologies everybody for nearly missing the start there. Usually we have, at the beginning of any sort of 2nd or 3rd races over the course of a night, there will be a practice session for everyone to jump into, just to make sure everybody's in the session and ready to go before it goes to the race. But this time round it jumped straight into a race situation, so we'll get that sorted. We'll speak to the admins and see what we can do. Austin Greatorex has gone up now into 3rd position with Gavin Halls and Matt Kyle-Henny ahead. But knowing that Ryan Parkins and Matt Dorrington are the 2 guys chasing you down, I mean, no matter how quick you are, from what we've seen, it's going to put you in a nervous situation. We've got Gianluca Elia here just behind Mark Bowe. And to be fair, I mean, Jack, we've seen a couple of these guys. They didn't have the easiest of rides in race 1, but there's still quite a bit of damage out there in race 2 as well. It's been a bit of a rough and tumble round for some of these boys.
It really has. We have mentioned the British touring cars sort of here and there throughout the stream, and I think these guys haven't quite got the memo that this isn't British touring cars, and that these cars are slightly more fragile than their more sort of saloon hatchback counterparts. But we've seen plenty of damage and plenty of bits of bodywork flying about. But everybody's carrying on that has got the damage like that, or they've got damage that they can carry on with. A couple of guys have gone into the pits and got their fast repair, and even we've seen a couple of retirements sadly as well quite early on in the race. We've had an incident for Angus Archer by the looks of it, not so long back. So we'll have to have a look back just to see what happened to him. Whether that was just a slight loop of the car. Happened on the lap prior. It's just popped up on my timing screen, whether that's a slight delay on my end. Here it is going into the GP loop. The car flicks one way, flicks the other in a bit of overcorrection. Gets it slowed down nicely before the gravel trap nearly gets collected by the number 225 car of Ryan Parkins. So he was quite lucky in that department to get avoided by everybody else. Gets it back going, no damage of course. I've got to say that is probably one of the cleanest cars that is still rotating around the Donington Park circuit, Chaz. Yeah,
and surprisingly so as well. I mean, I didn't think there was anybody that didn't get caught up in that first lap crash, but he seems to have kept it in good nick. Ryan Parkins, though, now, as you just saw him go a little bit wide there, is gradually getting caught up by Matthew Dorrington. And again, as we saw before from him, Peter, I think it's going to be a case of when, not if, he gets through. We were watching Ryan Ratcliffe make up the places before, but now it's down to Dorrington to really put the pressure on here. But you know, Ryan's quick, isn't he? He's not going to succumb to the pressure that easily.
He really is, yeah. Ryan was unfortunately an innocent bystander there, with Angus Archer having that little bit of an off-track excursion going into the foggy S's, which we're heading down to now, and Ryan had to take evasive action over the grass. He may well have been pinged by the iRacing system, which if it deems that you've cut the course, it will make you slow down for a certain period of time, sometimes a second or two, and it can be quite a penalty. And even if it didn't for that will not have been the ideal line coming across the gravel, and that's probably what's put him back into the clutches of Matthew Dorrington a little bit more. But as you can see, Matthew Dorrington, even for these really quick guys, look, if you just watch the massive dab of oversteer there on the exit there from Matthew Dorrington out the Melbourne hairpin, they're really, really tricky cars to handle here. One thing also to make our viewers aware of is that this particular car, if two cars make contact with one another, this car seems to be a little bit more unstable. So if you're even just tapped ever so slightly from the driver behind, it can put you into a spin more than almost any other car in the iRacing simulator. So I think that's one of the factors that we've had, that's why we've seen so many collisions and accidents.
Yeah, definitely. And the fact that the damage model on these cars as well is quite fragile. You know, it does really rely on that massive rear wing to keep the rear end planted, and anybody that's driven it will know that it is not the most planted car in the world either. It does like to break away from you and scare you from time to time. We've got a good battle going on here between Mark Phillips and Stuart Clark. Stuart just in the car in front there. The car behind is not for position. These guys are lapping them, and that's Austin Greatorex in third position just ahead. So we'll go back on board and we'll have a look at how it looks from Mark Phillips' point of view. He's going to get out of the way here, and that is going to be Ryan Parkins going through. Matt Dorrington is going to be coming up just behind in a moment as well into the hairpin. You can see everyone taking slightly different lines into there. And while it is a case of trying to open up that hairpin, Jack, when you're going down the hill and the car can break away from you, it's easier said than done, isn't it?
It really is, because the only time you really know when the car is going to break away from you is when it already has done. I know a lot of these guys, obviously there's going to be varying sort of hardware that these guys are working with as well, and I know you get a lot of feel through the steering wheel on what the car's doing underneath you, but even still it's really hard to sort of navigate around this circuit without the car doing something unexpected. So these guys are really going to have to be sort of on their toes to get round here cleanly. We've seen a couple of incidents, and it's sort of, I don't know whether that's opened everybody else's eyes to, oh god, how safe we need to be. That's Mark Phillips going very, very deep into the old hairpin, trying to let Dorrington by, and I think he lost out to Sack Dev as well. He managed to work his way past as well. But yeah, you've got to be really really on your toes to get round here to just to make sure you keep it on the circuit and not on the grass.
Yeah, it's not the widest of circuits as Sakdev goes slowly through the old hairpin and Baxter Jones sweeps around the outside, taking that position with quite a bit of ease there from the number 14 machine of Sakdev. We've got Mark Bow in 9th position there, sorry, 7 places gained is what I was going to say. And Danny Jones is 6 seconds back on him, but Ryan Penny has just sneaked down the inside in the number 99 car. Through he goes, even though he's got 55 on the back, trying to put us commentators off. But there's a little battle sort of developing all over the place here and there now in this one, Peter, and it shows that, oh, actually, we've got Baxter Jones around and off the circuit. We'll have to have a look whether there was contact. I was just about to say, though, Peter, if the field, despite the field spreading out quite a bit, there's still some good little scraps going on here and there just because of the variation in pace we've got, isn't there?
They really are, and as we say, we've really seen the traffic become a factor, and it really did not play in Matthew Dorrington's favour there. We just saw it was just the time at which Ryan Parkins came up behind Mark Phillips, and Mark Phillips very kindly moved across and showed very good blue flag discipline, was able to let Ryan go past without losing too much lap time. But then just at the time when Matthew Dorrington came up behind Mark Phillips, it's kind of like that one line down Craner curves, and of course we saw Mark trying to get out the way down the old hairpin and ran onto the grass and into the gravel. So that could be pivotal with just under 7 minutes to go. That could give Parkins the gap over Dorrington, which of course has an effect in the championship.
And that's what they've got to think about as well over the course of the event and the long run. It's all about the championship. Think about points. You don't want to be pushing too hard to try and make a move and get past everybody you can. Ryan Penny's gone off at the old hairpin. I think there's a little bit of a dent on the left rear of that Porsche there. The wheel arch not quite looking spot on. Oh, he loses it somehow, and I mean somehow. Does not hit Chris Barry there. He lets the car roll back a little bit. You want to be holding the brakes there, ideally, boys, just to make sure you don't get in anybody's way. But the car not too damaged at this point, Jack, so it looks like he's going to be able to carry on his pace. But speaking of being on the pace, Greatorex is now really getting caught up here with Parkins and Dorrington just behind, waiting in the wings.
Yeah, it really is. Parkins setting a purple time on the lap prior at 1:29.049. You can just see the gap from Dorrington all the way up to Parkins now, and he will be able to see this battle in front and fold, so he'll just be putting his hands together, hoping that they slow each other down, and Dorrington is back once again within striking distance, sliding the car around the old hairpin back up the hill, and he has pretty much got the world at his feet right now. He's in a position where he's got clean air in front just about, and he hasn't got major amounts of pressure from behind. Actually, he's 30 seconds worth of clean air behind him. All the way back to Amrik Sakdev. You can see Parkins getting ever busier trying to get past Greatorex. So Dorrington has just got to do everything he can to keep it clean, keep it on the circuit, and hope these two slow each other down and give the position to him.
Yep, he needs to just keep praying for that incident to come. Obviously, we still want to see the great racing between these guys. We don't want an incident, although it does mean drama, and as a commentator we love drama. And down the inside, I tell you what, he really does pry that door open, does Parkins, gets the car stopped nicely, and beautiful stuff there, keeps it ahead of Austin. It was very, very textbook manoeuvre there from him, and now Dorrington has managed to close up a lot because of that. Austin puts his nose back down the inside though. He says, no, you're not taking it that easily away from me, mate. He's not going to take it lying down. They slot back in again, single file. Dorrington doesn't want to push too hard here because he doesn't want to force the issue. There's no need for him to make it a hard time for these guys. He just wants to get on with the job and do what he needs to do. So, we're 15 minutes, nearly 16 minutes of the way through this race already. And I tell you what, Peter, if this championship goes this quickly, we're not going to be able to keep up, are we?
we certainly are, and we're seeing... what I'm liking here is we're seeing just how capable Austin Greatorex is. You know, his car's clearly not 100%. There's a lot of visible damage and a little bit on Parkins and Dorrington too. But Austin obviously caught up in a bit of an incident in race 1, but much better here in race 2. And I think over the course of the season, you know, Austin's a very clever driver. As you can see, when he knows there's a battle on, he'll take it on, and if not, he'll sort of he'll let Ryan Parkins pass. We saw that going into the Melbourne hairpin there, where he did make it difficult for Parkins to go by, but when he saw that Parkins was coming up beside him, he did move across to avoid the contact. And avoiding unnecessary contact, I think, could be the secret to winning this entire championship.
And that's it. It's all about the consistency, isn't it? I mean, Jack will tell you as well. He's a massive fan of consistency. He's not very good at it himself, but he likes drivers that are. It's definitely what wins you championships. We've seen people do it before in multiple, not just sim racing series, but real life championships as well. That it's not all about getting every single race win. You know, you could win a couple of races a season, but crash in the others. If you finish second in every single round of the championship, you're going to have more points, aren't you, mate?
You really are, and like you've mentioned, we've seen it not just in iRacing but over the world as well in real championships. You don't have to be on the podium to win a championship. I can't remember what series it was specifically. It was one of the Asian series where the driver that won the championship in the end only ended up on the podium once, but because he was that consistent in 4th, 5th and 6th, and then obviously that second position, which gave him that extra little boost, because he was that much more consistent than everybody else, he managed to take top honours. So although Kyle Henney did lose out in the first race, and sadly he's not going to do the rest of the season for him with us, if he did do the rest of the season, I'm guessing he would probably be in a shout with winning the entire championship. And we're looking at Parkins as well. He's been consistently up there as well with Donington, and we can't rule out Greater X yet. Yes, he didn't have the greatest race 1, but race 2, he's showing his true colours, and he's showing how quick he can really be. So we've got plenty of championship contenders already. This is Chris Bowie going straight on at the Melbourne hairpin. Just about gets it slowed down. I think that was a bit of clever driving from him. Didn't touch the brakes while he was crossing the circuit, just to make sure he got out of the way. But Chris Barry has now got Amric Sakdev in front of him. We're looking at Stuart Clark under pressure from Mark Phillips now, Chaz.
Yeah, some battles constantly developing here. I keep seeing different parts of our timing screen do different colours as each of these guys close in. That's Stuart Clark going a bit deep into the hairpin there. Mark Phillips has managed to get alongside, but he's going to be on the outside now for the hairpin. We've got to hope that Stuart just gets it slowed down enough to make sure he doesn't make contact, sticks to the inside, manages to actually get the racing line again from it, but he's slow on the exit. Mark gives him a bit of what we'll call encouragement on the exit, gives him a bit of a tap. But Kyle Henney leading this race at the moment with a car that's definitely not in factory condition at the moment. But like you said before, Peter, about the fifth place driver Austin Greatorex, they're showing just how good they are driving with a car that's not at its best.
Yeah, I think this has definitely been a damage limitation race for many drivers. I mean, that is definitely one very second-hand looking 911 GT3 Cup there. Just a little shout out to Chris Bowie there, the 71. I noticed he had an Ayrton Senna replica helmet, and of course the only ever Formula One Grand Prix to be held here at Donington Park, the European Grand Prix in 1993. Of course, Ayrton Senna won in the wet, and that opening lap in the wet was will stick in the memory for a very, very long time. But yes, you're absolutely right about Austin Greatorex. Unlucky to get caught in the turmoil in race 1, but yeah, proving what he's capable of and proving that over the course of a season he'll be there, no question about it.
Yeah, those points are all so important, and we've only got actually 15 seconds of the race to go, so that means that we are going to get one more lap from Kyle Henney. Crosses the line with 8 seconds to go. And Gavin Halls, he's not really dropped off here. You did say he was quick, but you can see this lead battle is really starting to develop. Ryan Parkins is in 3rd place. And we've got Strasser saying generally between quali and the 2 rounds, we're gaffer taping wings and bumpers on Caymans and 997. So it's a good thing that you can save the money on the gaffer tape in iRacing and just get a fast repair rather than getting the tape out. But I imagine there'd be quite a lot of rubbing of hands going on if anyone down the road from Donington Park owns a parts franchise at the moment, wouldn't there, Jack?
Yeah, there definitely will be. There's parts pretty much slewed around the Donington Park circuit, so you probably will be able to pick up what you lost during the race at the end of it. But this is James Cummins looking to go down the inside of 3 cars, the number 7 and the number 71. This make it work. He makes contact with the number 15 car. That's Carl Sharkey. Ends up on the bonnet, decides to go straight back to the pits. Carl Sharkey continues the race and goes on to what will be the last lap. And here is Kyle Henney, your current leader, going into what will be the penultimate corner of the Donington Park circuit, and to complete round 2 of the Porsche Club GB series, going up towards the final corner. And Chaz, it's been a dominant race from him. Yeah,
he's got through the incidents at the start, not without damage, of course, but he's driven a very, very controlled drive. So around the final corner he comes then. Kyle Henney takes round 2 of the championship, and just behind Parkins is just going to squeeze ahead of Gavin Halls. We will have another look back at that in a moment, but he gets his podium spot improved by 1 there, does Parkins, up to 2nd place. Matthew Dorrington finishes 4th, Greatorex in 5th, and Matt Kyle Henny there doing a bit of a burnout down the straight. Greatorex chucks into turn 1. He thinks, oh, I don't need these tyres anymore, boys. You can just rip them off it. We've still got a battle going on here, actually, between Danny Jones and Ryan Perry. Samreek Sakdev in front of him. Ryan Penny's behind him on track. But these guys are having a fight right to the death here. We've got Danny Jones putting it down the inside. Oh, it's contact. Oh, Sakdev still turns in. It didn't need to. Oh, it's gone over as well. It didn't need to happen, boys. Sakdev, for me, didn't need to defend that hard there. He did come over, and then he still turned in, knowing he was there. Not the best, in all honesty, but you're going to see a bit of that, aren't you, Peter? I mean, we know that some of these guys, they're not the most experienced iRacers, are they? They're, a lot of them quite new to the service, so they're still finding their feet a little bit.
Yes, I was just watching on board there with Danny Jones, and as soon as he hit the brakes, I thought, "There's no way this is sticking." And probably would have been wiser for Sakdev there to actually hit the brakes early and allow Jones to go through, knowing he was never going to make the corner and then cut back. But as you said earlier on, it's very, very easy for us to say here in the commentary box, and as I always say, those who can't commentate.
Yeah, I'll stick with that. To be honest, but. Yeah, it was another strong race as Ryan Penny chucks it into the gravel. He says, yeah, I don't need these tyres either anymore. But it's another fantastic race for the championship. Matt Kyle Henny takes the race win then from Ryan Parkins with Gavin Halls in 3rd. Great podium there. We will actually, I tell you what, just for one moment, we will have a look back at the final move there. Where is it? Where's it gone? I'm just trying to find it, everybody. Sorry about this. I should have had it probably prepared beforehand. But it was a very, very final minute move by Mr. Parkins. Doesn't seem to be coming up on here for some reason. So sorry about that. We will bring the results back up. 4th place was Matthew Dorrington. Behind him was Austin Greatorex. Then it's Mark Bow and Mark Baxter-Jones. Gianluca Elia with Ian Hannon and Amrik Sakdev. Behind them was Ryan Penny and Danny Jones. Then it's Carl Hazelton and Mark Phillips. Stuart Clark and Angus Archer with Chris Bowie and Carl Sharkey in 18th place. Andrew Marston was 19th with James Cummings in 20th. And we have Mark Sill 2 laps down, 4 laps down for Dan Bathy. Not a great night for him, unfortunately, with Ryan Ratcliffe 11 laps down and Paul Rieger as well, having issues from the very start. Just going to have a look and see if we've got anybody in. I don't think any of the guys have actually joined the actual Discord channel to do interviews, so if you do watch this back, guys, please do request an invite to the Discord from your admins, and we will make sure that we can get you in, and we'll give you all the interviews that we need. And thank you, everybody, for the comments. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Just final thoughts from you. I'll start with you, Peter. What did you make of the first round of the championship? It should be quite an exciting one to follow.
I think it is. I think it's going to be great to see Ryan Perkins and Matthew Donington battling away. I mean, they were incredibly evenly matched today. They took one win apiece between each other, so it's going to be really tight across the course of the championship. So it's great to see that. Brilliant to see Matt Kyle Henny get a win in his SW Engineering car. He's been quite unlucky in the last couple of races. He got took out in round 1 of the International Sim Racing Challenge, and then his pedals broke in the next round. So he has been quite unfortunate. So great to see him get a win before he heads back to university. And I tell you what, I just can't wait for round 2. I think this dual race format with the reverse grid certainly provides plenty for us to talk about. So I think that what's been clear today is the secret to the championship is going to be avoiding contact, not necessarily winning the most races, but keeping the car on the black stuff and just accumulating those points. I mean, we saw that in the British Touring Car Championship, actually, with, funny enough, former Carrera Cup champion Dan Camish not actually winning the most races, but doing very, very well in the championship. So I think that's going to be the key, but I think it's going to be all about Donington and Parkins, I think.
And what about you, Jack? More action than we could shake a stick at in that one. Incidents and overtakes going on all over the place. Do you reckon we'll see that all the way throughout?
I hope so. Maybe the incidents a little less, obviously a bit of trading paint. The occasional bit of contact, yeah, that's just motorsport. Obviously, we had 2 fairly big incidents at the start of each race, so I'm hoping that sort of irons itself out towards the end of the season. Obviously, when we do get a driver in that we can talk to, whether that be at rounds 3 and 4 or 5 and 6, of course, and there's like so many questions we need to ask them, like how hard is the car to drive? Is it all damage limitation as we've seen today? And obviously how much aggression you can use, because we've mentioned so many times and reiterated it throughout the broadcast from start to finish, and how much aggression you can get away with, because these cars are hard to drive. So you've got to figure out at what point do you stop being as aggressive, and you just hope you just sort of drive nice and safe, keep the tires nice and cool, and just maybe that comes to you. But we've got so much like of the season left to go. This is only rounds 1 and 2, and we've got 8 weeks or 7 weeks now still to get through. So there's just going to be action in bucket loads towards the end of the season, Chaz. I can't wait.
Yeah, especially when the points start becoming more and more vital as things get further and further along. It's going to be even more awesome to watch. Plenty of drivers out there tonight giving it their all, and we're going to see more of that as it goes on. Thank you everybody that's tuned in. This has been Simracersworld TV. I have been Chaz Draycott, joined by the excellent Jack Werrell and Peter MacKay, and we will see you next time round, where we go to Laguna Seca in 2 weeks' time on the 14th of June. Same time then as well. Keep an eye out on Simracersworld TV and Porsche Club GB for any updates before then. As for now, we'll see you next time.